إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مكمهون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع ذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاءتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستعزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآيت لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذرية في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا ونطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بأسنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قول من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أزل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تأكلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فعنا يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مزيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يأكلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويهك القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلية لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهزرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يروا الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشاها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون اللهم صل على محمد وآل قل أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات سورة المباركة الفاتحة
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सलाबाई हुसैन आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सलाबाई हुसैन تیرا چہرہ تیری آنکھیں بھول کب پائی حسین آج بھی زینب کی آتی ہے سزا بھائی حسین چل چلا کیسے گرایا خود کو ڈھلتی ریت پر چل چلا کیسے گرایا خود کو ڈھلتی ریت پر گھٹنیوں کے بل میں تیری لاش تک آئی حسین بس میں گھبرائی تھی خنجر تجھ پہ چلتا دیکھ کر بس میں گھبرائی تھی خنجر تجھ پہ چلتا دیکھ کر پھر کسی مشکل میں گر کر میں نہ گھبرائی حسین کون سا جو مرنے والوں میں نہیں تھا خوب یوں کون سا جو مرنے والوں میں نہیں تھا خوب یوں بھولنے بیٹھی تو کس کس کی نہ یاد آئی حسین بہہ رہے تھے آنکھ سے آنسو تیری رخسار کے وقت بہہ رہے تھے آنکھ سے آنسو تیری رخسار کے وقت پھر کوئی آنسو نہ ٹپکا آنکھ پچرائی حسین تیرا چہرہ تیری آنکھیں بھول کب پائی حسین آج بھی زینب کی آتی ہے سزا بھائی حسین بھائی محمد وآل محمد صلوات على أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات ثواب الفاتحة
محمد وآل محمد صلوات یاد آتی ہے وفات حیدر ثانی تیری مشق کے ساتھ رہی، تیشن دہانی تیری، یاد آتی ہے وفا، کس برے وقت میں ٹوٹی تیرے بھائی کی کمر، کس برے وقت میں ٹوٹی تیرے بھائی کی کمر، مل گئی خاک میں باس جوانی تیری، یاد آتی ہے وفا، شاہ خیمے میں لیے جاتے ہیں کیا مشک و علم، شاہ خیمے میں لیے جاتے ہیں کیا مشک و علم، نہ سنی جائے گی، نہ سنی جائے گی زینب سے کہانی تیری، یاد آتی ہے وفا، آج تک تیری وفا کا اثر باقی ہے، آج تک تیری وفا کا اثر باقی ہے، ساتھ تابوت کے، ساتھ تابوت کے رہتی ہے نشانی تیری، یاد آتی ہے وفا، حیدر ثانی تیری، مشق کے ساتھ رہی، تیشن دہانی تیری، یاد آتی ہے وفا۔ سورة المائدة الفاتحة۔ محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. I'd like to thank Sayyid Bahrulum for being with us, inshallah. Looking forward for your next visit, inshallah. Uh, Let us recite I am Yujibu 5 times for all those who are sick, especially there is a request for Sister Rizwana Qadri and all others that are sick for the safety of Muslimin, safety of holy places, anybody who is in need of du'as. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فكل أرواح المؤمنين إن شفى مريض سورة مباركة الفاتحة. بالحبيب خدا ختم الأنبياء محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. والصلاة والسلام على حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah the Almighty says in the Holy Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. We've discussed previously about the characteristics of leadership through Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, the commander of the faithful, and we covered a few of the signs that one would look when a person is a leader. You look at these characteristics and you try to see and understand. See, when we come together for events like these, we're commemorating or we're celebrating. It's a form of memory. We're trying to remember these individuals. We're trying to remember them how? To know their history. They were born on this date, they lived this long, they died on this day. What are we trying to understand? We're trying to capture their lives from a specific angle. We're trying to understand them not because they lived and they died only. Each and every person has a story. You have a story, I have a story. Is my story, is my journey worth telling or not? Each one of us will and is writing his and her own story by their own hands. It is absolutely impossible to live without writing a story. The question is, would it be worth telling? You ask yourself, why do people write long stories? So others can read them. In our lives, who is the most important reader of the story? Usually when we want to tell stories, we don't have an audience. People listen to the to the story, talk about it. But in our lives, you and I, first and foremost, we write our stories for someone, for a being who already knows our story, Allah Azza wa Jal. Because at the end of the day, when you die, when I die, our book, our storytelling book, will be opened. It will be read. What happened? What have you done? What have I done that is worth mentioning? Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. We have given you this pond called Kawthar. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Offer the prayers. Sacrifice to your Lord. What is that Kawthar that was given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The commentators give us three explanations for the Kawthar. Some say it is a pond. The others say it's translated from the actual word refers to the meaning of in the abundance. And a third says it is Az-Zahra Salamullahi Ta'ala alayha. And the third encompasses the first and the second. Because she is an abundance of khair, the abundance of good. And Zahra alayhi salam, she is the one, from her and to her, the pond and everything will be given and will be delivered. Now, the abundance, talking about what came from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because these verses came as some people in Quraysh were talking against the Holy Prophet that he does not have descendants, no lineage. But we look at Az-Zahra alayha salam and the commander of the faithful, and we see who they brought to life. Al-Hasan, Al-Hussein, Zainab alayha salam. This is the abundance that came. From whom? Az-Zahra and the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. When we look at these two individuals, we start with the introduction of the story of Zainab alayhi salam. Now, I want to learn from Lady Zainab alayhi salam, like I learned from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. I'm reading the story. When I read the story of Lady Zainab salamullahi ta'ala alayha, from the beginning until the end, I look at first and foremost who had an impact on an influence on the making of Lady Zainab alayhi salam. These two individuals. The father and the mother themselves is a story. When I look at this marriage, this couple, the couple is a story. When I talk about a mother, MashaAllah, I would say this is a great mother. And when I see the father also great, what do you think the product will be? You and I, when we grow up, when we live our lives, we try to take these individuals as examples for us in our lives. Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullahi Ta'ala alayh and Zahra alayha salam gave a lot of attention to their children. The way they talk to them, the way they raise them. Besides the fact we have two of them, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein Salamullahi Ta'ala alayhima, they are immaculates, ma'sumin. And what does al-asma mean at this point? Does it mean they are not recipients of the love, the care, the attention, the teachings of their parents? Even al-asma, this immaculateness, has a pathway to receive it, to maintain it, to keep it. You're not given. One of the issues that one has to realize, when Allah creates us, do we become independent of Him? Meaning, He created us, He gave us, and that's it. Now He's watching. God, astaghfirullah, He's watching. What do we do? This is a misconception in our lives, our understanding of the relationship between us and Allah Azza wa Jal. When we resolve it, a lot of the other things that has to do with our living will be understood. Allah Azza wa Jal, He did not just create us and leave us alone, that and waiting for us to die, then He'll take us back. No. A lot of us don't live this connection with the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, because He's watching me. So there is in my mind, I may create this image of there is a God watching me because He's done with my creation. Now I'm growing. Now I am living life. And when I die, He's going to receive me back to His domain. That's not the way it works. Everything in this universe, every speck, every atom, every quark, every creation is in its inception, is throughout its creation, needs the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. What does al-qayyum mean? Al-qayyum means قائم بنفسه مقوم لغيره. He is absolutely independent himself, and everything else what? Depends on him. Everything. And this dependency is not timed. It's continuous. See, when I move my hand, when I breathe, when I see everything in me, in you, in the entire universe, the ones we know and the ones we don't. When I say the entire universe, it means what? The domain of creation at all its levels. That all depends on whom? Allah Azza wa Jal. Not only in its creation, in its survival, in its being it. When I look at that, I know every breath of mine, every blink of an eye, my lungs when they breathe in, my mouth when it utters the word. In every instant, I need Him. Allahul Ghani wa antum what? Al-Fuqara. Allah is the one absolutely has no need. And we are who are absolutely in need of Allah Azza wa Jal. This relationship, when I realize it, then I know in this universe it was created through a cause and effect, and it's made that A will get B based on a relationship. So even when it comes to the ma'soom, to the immaculate, he is in absolute need. Of whom? Allah Azza wa Jal. The son of the ma'soom, the daughter of the ma'soom, who is a ma'soom, needs the ma'soom to receive the asma. If from Allah Azza wa Jal. Because we read in Ziyarat Jami'ah, tomorrow is Thursday night, inshallah. Of course, all of you know we are in the month of Shahr Rajab. Month of Shahr Rajab, we are in the 14th today. It means tonight is what? The night of the 15th. These 3 days, 13, 14, 15, al-ayyam al-bid. These are the days one should be fasting. And then tomorrow, the 15th of Rajab. Tonight, the rituals. Open Mafatih al-Jinan and pick anything you can. Do something. You know who is the worst, unlucky, unfortunate, a truly miserable person in the universe? The one who does not benefit from this month of Rajab. Allah Azza wa Jal, the one who from him everything is given life. He's not in the business of trying to punish us, of trying to torture us, of trying to make life. On the contrary, He knows we all make sins, we all make mistakes, we are all full of sins. And He made repentance extremely easy. Furthermore, He gave us times and places. He goes, go to these places, you're forgiven. Do certain things in these times, you're forgiven. Keep your attention here. This is key. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, when you finish your prayers, as-salatul faridah, the obligatory prayers, before you turn right or left, do one thing. You finish it, it's like it's the day you were born. Tasbihatu Zahra alayhi salam. Do you know what this means? Allah is telling you, I will reset your sins for you. Just do this simple act. You mean anything? Of course, if you have talked about someone, this is something you have to take it with the person you talked about. Get the forgiveness from him or her. If you stole, that's something. He will forgive you the sins. The sins that you are responsible for, His rights on you. Easy to reset. Man sama min Rajab. You fast in the month of Rajab, 3 days. Look at what you get. One of the things you get is the fire of hell on the day of judgment will not touch you and will be distant from you 900 years. Now you say, oh, okay, inshallah. When we die, everything matters. Why? Al-an amalun bila hisab. It's all work. There's no accounting. There's no one is asking you, telling you. But when we die, hisabun bila amal. Now the books are open over there. There is nothing you can do. And that is why when we look at the days of Rajab and we try to learn from these immaculates alayhim salam, we look at Lady Zainab alayhi salam and we learn from her personality. She is a mirror of the personalities of two, Amir al-Mu'mineen was Zahra salamullahi ta'ala alayhima. She went side by side with her mother when she gave her mother, Lady Fatima, gave her sermon after the passing away of her father, Rasulullah al-Azam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She called the people, أيها الناس اعلموا إني فاطمة وأبي Muhammad. A declaration. I am Fatima and my father is Muhammad. Ladies, Zainab alayhi salam heard that, saw that, walked these steps. She saw Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi ta'ala alayhi, the life of Lady Zainab, what they did to him, how they dealt with him, the patience of Imam Ali alayhi salam. For 30 plus years, Lady Zainab alayha salam, she was learning through her 50 years. By the way, they say she did not complete a year after Karbala and she passed away. She learned from Imam Ali alayhi salam, her teacher. So every bit of their, she became part of the story of that Ma'soom, of Ali alayhi salam. Who are you? And I'm going to keep on going back in history and today. Who are you part of what Ma'soom's history? I want you to think of this. As Zainab alayhi salam, she woke up, she fell asleep, she saw the two lights. Her mother and father. And the two other lights, her brothers. And the fifth one, Al-Rasul al-Azam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And a person who is immersed with the light of the Asma, of Al-Wahi. What do you expect her to become? She was part of the history of these five immaculates. And Al-Ma'soom, the immaculate, when you are aware of his presence, has an impact on who you are and what you become. Who are we part of whose history? What Ma'soom we are writing his history with him. صاحب العصر والزمان عليه السلام. The 12th holy Imam. Do you recognize yourself as an active member in writing the history of the Imam alayhi salam? Stop and ask yourself, what have you done? What are you doing? Is it enough to just live and die? Where is my connection to the Ma'soom alayhi salam? To the living Ma'soom. We commemorate Lady Zainab. We celebrate Imam Ali to remind us to live with the 12th Holy Imam. These living memories, why do we want to recollect them? So I can find myself walking in the footsteps of Lady Zainab alayhi salam, not just shedding the tears on her tragedy. When it itself, it's a blessing, no doubt. But Allah wants you to complete that blessing. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, in her personality, she carried knowledge, spirituality. She knew alimatun ghayr mu'allama. She had that kind of knowledge that Allah Azza wa Jalla inspires a person with. But a person does not get inspired that knowledge until they have finished and they have acquired the introductions for it. Some of us say, oh, I will not do anything, inshallah, I'll just pray and do this and that, and God will give. No. That type of knowledge, al-ilm al-ladunni, that God gives selective people, are those who made it their intent to learn, to gain closest to Allah Azza wa Jal. Dear brothers and sisters, it's not impossible. The more valuable something is, the more it's worthy. The problem is, do we understand the value? Do we know what the value is? This doesn't happen in a lecture or two. It happens when you put time and effort on yourself. These lectures, these events, it's great. MashaAllah, the centers, the local centers they do, the masajid they do, these are important. But the work starts when you leave, not when you come. When you come, we charge you. We give you connections. We connect you to ideas. But it's when you leave the 24 hours, you spend here, I promise, inshallah, today I'll stick to 45 minutes. But the 23 hours and 15 minutes that you'll spend after, outside, is what matters. What do you do? How do you think? Where's your mind thinking? It's important to think about your livelihood. It's important to think about how. But are we, when I talk about Lady Zainab and Imam Ali alayhi salam and the characteristics of leadership, am I manifesting that in what I do? Imam Ali alayhi salam's characteristics of leadership is founded and based on his knowledge of the truth. Aliyun ma'al haq wal haqqu ma'ali. They became one and the same. They cannot separate. You don't define Ali through the haq. You define the haq through Ali. And this is his daughter, Zainab alayhi salam. She became the cornerstone of haq. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, when he was about to leave Medina, Ibn Abbas told him, okay, you want to do this? Why the children and the women? Zainab alayhi salam answered, Ibn Abbas, this is an issue that Allah Azza wa Jal commanded. Look, she left her husband, she took her children with the permission of her husband, and she went with her brother Imam Hussein. This relationship, why? It's because of the knowledge, because of the know. That's the cornerstone of the leadership of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Knowledge creates clarity of path. Knowledge creates a clarity of direction. Knowledge makes, and with that clarity of direction and path, what happens? You minimize doubt. When you minimize doubt, it increases the energy in which you take steps forward. You see, a lot of us, we have doubts in our lives. I don't know, I'm not sure. But when you see someone knows what they want, have these indicators, milestones in their lives, they're going after it, is very clear the objective they're trying to achieve, you'll see them very successful. But the key to their success is founded on what? Them knowing. That's when it comes to the what? The ideas of thought. But when it comes to the feelings and behavior, it is based on one thing and one thing that plays a big role. Yesterday or the day before, I told you, as a human beings, we fluctuate between النفس الأمارة بالسوء, that self that wants you to do wrong, and النفس المطمئنة, that self at peace, and in the middle, النفس اللوامة, the self-blaming self. We fluctuate. We do wrong. Sometimes we just want to do the extreme haram. When we do it, it's like, God, why did I do that? The self, I went from the extreme left, then went to the middle. Then comes the spiritual nights. I want to reinvent myself. Allah says, I'll reset everything for you. Just the intention and the mindset. Some people there are two types of mindsets. There's the growth mindset and there's the fixed mindset. The growth mindset says, I can always change. There's always room for me to become better. The fixed mindset says, no, I'm created this way. I am who I am. Have you ever, Dad, I am this way. I was created this way. This is how I am. This is who I am. They don't want to change. A true believer in the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam always have the growth mindset inside of them. There's always room to change, always room to improve. Until the last moment, last breath, you can change. Having said that, we look at Lady Zainab alayhi salam. Her knowledge showed her the path with clarity, with no doubt. What is our knowledge doing for us? What does it do? Does it give you, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you need to ask yourself this question. Have this insight and know. I have some parents, they ask me, our children are, they're giving us a hard time because of, I'm like, why? They don't know what to do. I'm like, when did you find out what you want to do? Well, let's say I'm still trying to find. Okay, if you're still trying to find, how about your children then? Don't expect things from your children that you don't have. We need to think. We need to think. But at the level of behavior, there is one thing we need to be aware of. What is it called? Some may ask, you know, when it comes to salat, there are a lot of rules. When to pray, I need to know the details of the prayers. If I have a doubt with this, what are the parts of the prayers? What are the conditions of the prayer? Aren't there a lot of? There's a whole book about the ibadat, the acts of worship, right? You know that, right? Okay. And if you don't, you should. A lot of us, I'll be very honest with you. A lot of us don't even look at it. A lot of us don't even delve into it. A lot of us don't regulate our lives through the issues of fiqh, the halal, the haram. One of the brothers, one time, he does a lot of trade in the stock market. And he asked me a few questions. I said, no, you can't do this because he said, you know what? It's better if I don't know. Just leave me alone. But you're going to be doing haram? Gaining money haram? I'm not saying stocks haram. Some things are haram, not everything. In every single business, there is a halal, there's a haram, there's a problem, there are things that. But why? You know why we should? Imam Sadiq says, if I could, I would force the youth, especially, to learn fiqh. Every person, each one of us, men and women, should at least finish a whole book of fiqh, Islamic laws, according to your marja. Men and women, when it comes to marriage, know your rights, your obligations. We sit down, and I see a lot of people when I would be traveling, when I come back for my work, I come back and some people would ask for counseling, and why did you? I didn't know. Why didn't you know? I just got married. No one told me anything. What do you mean no one told? It's accessible everywhere. But you know why fiqh is so detailed? One of the reasons, but one of the main reasons that I found, it helps you develop the most successful characteristics that aid you to be successful in everything else. And what is that? Discipline. The moment you become disciplined, it's through the lens of fiqh, because this halal, this haram, this can be, this can't, etc. You will find yourself how disciplined you become. Everything else becomes easy. At work, they give me, here's the rules and regulations, here's what you have to do. It's like 2-3 pages. That's easy. Oh, we're sorry. I'm like, you don't know what we have to go through. That's very simple. It's not a problem. It's a mindset. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, because she had that foundation, she knew it. When it came time to Karbala, it all manifested itself. See, Lady Zainab alayhi salam, she saw when it's important to be at the forefront. I want to give you an example. In Medina, it is said when Imam Ali alayhi salam was with his children, Lady Zainab, she wanted to go and visit her mother at night. They say Al-Hasan al-Hussein and Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam would walk, and they would surround Lady Zainab in such a way, and he would have the light with him. The moment they come to the grave of Lady Zahra alayhi salam, they only knew it, he would put off the light. Why? So no one could see Lady Zainab. The strangers would not see Lady Zainab. See, this is Lady Zainab. Modesty, protective. For what? She's a woman. They wanted to make sure the way she. But when time came, Lady Zainab, she spoke at the Majlis of Ibn Ziyad, the Majlis of Yazid. She addressed the people of Ahl al-Kufa, of Ahl al-Sham. There is movement. She knew when to assess. This whole idea of activism nowadays that we have. Let me address it just on a sidebar. A lot of young men and women, they want to be activists. Lord help us. You know what's the dangers of activism? And what are the benefits of activism? Activism can be one of the best things you've ever done in your life, and it could be the worst thing you've done in your life. Activism without real knowledge is foolishness. We read a book or two, we attend a lecture or two, and now I want to do things based on the philosophy and the understand. Hold it, hold it, hold it. You have to understand the history of Ahlul Bayt and how they moved, why they moved. You have to have fiqh. A lot of people, young men and women, they don't have the Islamic law in their heads. They don't know if they're doing halal and haram. And they're engaged in activism when they don't realize they may be doing something wrong. And don't use Lady Zainab as a label. We have to be very careful, dear brothers and sisters. Lady Zainab alayhi salam was the best example of an activist. But why? She is the product of Ali and Fatima. The knowledge of Ali and Fatima was inherited in her. When she took a step, she knew what was right and wrong. She did not just go and talk, even when she wanted to talk. Look, Lady Zainab alayhi salam, she was in Majlis ibn Ziyad, la'natullahi alayh, or Majlis Yazid, la'natullahi ta'ala alayh. The way she addressed her voice, how she talked, even in Karbala. At the toughest times, how Lady Zainab alayhi salam, look at the historians, describe how she walked and how she dressed. She is the one that had to take care of the children who are running away. The fire is burning the tents. She had to calm the kids, calm the children, calm the women, look after them, bring them together, look after Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. How was she? Did she in any of these instances lose her modesty? Lose her connectivity and her attention to the details? No. That is why she was considered to Imam Hussein alayhi salam as his ambassador. At no time, Lady Zainab alayhi salam made one mistake. At no time. So, this is what we call الرؤية الملكوتية. This when you get to a point when you see your sight is not this sight anymore. You see through the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jal. وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ. But what happened? Who threw? Allah Azza wa Jal. So, Lady Zainab Salamullahi Ta'ala alayha, with all what was happening, when she entered Al-Kufa and went to Damascus, the sermon she gave to Ahl Kufa and the talk she had in the council of Ibn Ziyad, and then the sermon she gave when she entered Damascus, and then the sermon she gave when she was in the council of Yazid. 4 stages. They are very telling. These 4 parts, when you read them, and you know, back in the days, especially when you went to Arabic schools, it was one of the things that we were told to learn and memorize. The sermon of Lady Zahra, the sermons of Lady Zainab, the sermons of Zain al-Abidin, salamullahi ta'ala alayh, the sermons of Amir al-Mu'minin, Ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. All these sermons, what happened to us? Our culture, our educational culture as followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam became very disconnected from the text. But this, I don't blame it on the new generation. I don't blame it on the new generation alone. We're all part of the problem. And we need to all become part of the solution. It's never late. Take one line. Remember it. Think about it. When she, one thing that I want to quote, when she stood in the council of Yazid, la'natullahi ta'ala alayh. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, and keep in mind, she was more vocal in the council of Yazid than Ibn Ziyad. Why? Because, as the narrators say, there were a lot of people gathered in that council, Muslims and Christians and other faiths and other groups, because if Yazid gave the impression that whoever is coming is not of significance and they are not even believers. أمن العدل يا ابن الطلقاء, she says. أمن العدل يا ابن الطلقاء تخديرك حرائرك وإماء. O son of the tulaqa, even by using this word, see the knowledge? Knowledge with the ability of what? Speech that she has. At-tulaqa has a meaning. She wants to remind everyone sitting that Yazid is the son of whom? Muawiyah, the son of whom? Abu Sufyan. And who is Abu Sufyan? He is the one that was forcefully entered into Islam. He was from a tulaqa that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he entered Mecca after Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, and he opened Mecca, the disbelievers came to him. They asked him, okay, now what? He says, what do you think I'll be doing? He goes, they told him, honorable, a son of an honorable. He goes, اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. Go. I just freed you. This sign of at-tulaqa is to remind the people sitting, this is Abu Sufyan's grandson. Hold on. Who is his wife? Who is the grandmother of Yazid? Look what she says. First, she tells him, O son of the tulaqa, is it justice that you keep your women and maids in modest seclusion? وسوقك بنات رسول الله سبايا على ظهور المطايا. And that you steer the daughters of the messengers of God as prisoners on the backs of the camels. قد هتكت ستورهن وأبديت وجوههن وصحلت أصواتهن. Their veils have been transgressed against. Their faces have been exposed. Their faces, it tells you, Lady Zainab alayhi salam is telling our own women and men how to look after each other, how to walk, how to talk, how to present themselves. تحدو بهن الأعداء من بلد إلى بلد ويستشرفهن أهل المناهل والمعاقل. They have been steered by their enemies from one land to another, stared at by the people of every hill and valley. So staring like that is not right. Look, don't only look at history. Look at it now. Lady Zainab is saying the way they had been taken where men were looking at, men and women were looking at the daughters of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the family of the Prophet. That was not appropriate, was wrong. وَيَتَصَفَّحُ وُجُوهَهُنَّ الْقَرِيبِ وَالْبَعِيدِ. And their faces were examined by the near and the far. وَالدَّنِيُّ وَالشَّرِيفُ, the noble and the meek. Why is she saying this? Look, she made a comparison. Your maids and women, you put them, seclude them, take care of them. But the daughters of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you've done all this, you allowed all this to happen to them. ليس معهن من حماتهن حمي ولا من رجالهن ولي. They do not have a guardian from their kin nor husbands to look over them. And this is the punchline. وكيف ترتجى مراقبة ابن من لفظ فوه أكباد الأذكياء. But how can one hope for the concern of those whose jaws bit into the livers of the pure men? Meaning whom? Hind. She's saying this blood is from Hind, the one who bit the liver of whom? Hamza. Who does that? How much anger, hate this woman had. This woman Hind had. That's her grandson. That's her grandson, Yazid. La'natullahi alayh. Lady Zainab alayhi salam is doing what? Linking all of the dots together to whomever doesn't know. She is telling the people, this is from that. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, when she walked into Kufa with the woman, the children, think Zainab salamullahi ta'ala alayha, she saw the massacre of Karbala, the disbelievers killing her brother. She loved her brother. Nura Aini Hussein, Habibi Hussein. She saw Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam being massacred. Ali al-Akbar salamullahi ta'ala alayh being massacred. Al-Qasim, her own 4 children being killed. And all the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Habib, Muslim ibn Awsaja, and others. Now she's going into Kufa. After the nights she stayed, taking care of the children and the woman, she walks into Kufa. People are gathered. Kufa, that when Ibn Ziyad la'natullahi alayh entered, they were shivering and shaking. And Kufa, by the way, is the stronghold of the Shia. But Ibn Ziyad came and he imprisoned all the leaders. He destroyed the connections. He demolished what he could through fear and tactics. And Al-Kufa also represented something else. Al-Kufa was a place where all the Muslims' army used to gather when they go and fight, especially in the eastern side. So there was a mixture. So when she's addressing Ahl al-Kufa, she's not addressing only those who were there. She's addressing everyone who heard of what Imam Hussein a.s. wanted to do and did nothing about it. Ya Ahl al-Kufa. Now she walks in and she sees them crying, wailing, weeping. Ya Ahl al-Khatli wal-Ghadr. People of deception and treachery. أتبكون? You cry? فلا رقأت الدمع ولا هدأت الرنة. May your tears never stop and your wails never cease. أتبكون وتنتحبون? You cry and wail? إي والله. فابكوا كثيرا واضحكوا قليلا. You shall weep much and laugh little. فلقد ذهبتم بعارها وشنارها. You have reaped the greatest of disgrace and demerits. And you shall never be able to wash this away. Zainab alayhi salam, with all this baggage entering the council of Ibn Ziyad la'natullahi alayh. Ibn Ziyad, this animal, this vicious animal, looks at Lady Zainab alayhi salam. Of course, he saw her. There's a very honorable woman with the women around her. He said, "Who is she?" They told her, "Zainab bint Ali." Zainab, the daughter of Ali. With the wickedness in his voice, he said, "What did you see Allah do to your family members?" "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila." She responds, "I have seen nothing but grace." What a heart. "ما رأيت إلا جميلا قوم كتب الله عليهم القتل فبرزوا إلى مضاجعهم." People upon whom Allah wrote them to be massacred, so they set out to their resting places. Lady Zainab alayhi salam knew what to say and when to say it. Lady Zainab alayhi salam, when addressing Yazid, and everyone was listening, when she started talking, she shook the throne of Yazid. كد كيدك واسع سعيك وناصب جهدك. Plot as you wish. Continue with your undertaking. Exert all your efforts. فوالله لا تمحو ذكرنا. By God, you will never erase our remembrance. ولا تميت وحينا. Or kill our inspirations. ولا تدرك أمدنا. Or reach our stature. ولا يرحض عنك عارها. And you will never erase the shame of your undertaking. وهل رأيك إلا فند. Indeed, your views are nothing but lies. وأيامك إلا عدد. And your days are numbered. وجمعك إلا بدد. And your armies will be disbanded. يوم ينادي المنادي ألا لعنة الله على الظالمين. The day that a caller shall call, may God's damnation befall the wrongdoers. Dear brothers and sisters, Lady Zainab salamullahi ta'ala alayha, she was a leader. She knew when to say what to say. Her leadership came because it was built on the foundation of knowledge. It was led through piety. She knew what to do and how to do it, because her connection with Allah Azza wa Jal was continuous and she never disregarded it. And that is why on the 10th day of Muharram, dear brothers and sisters, we go to Karbala. Lady Zainab alayha salam, on the 10th day of Muharram, when her brother Imam Hussein alayhi salam went into the battlefield of Karbala, her eyes were on Imam Hussein, yet her heart and eyes were on the children and the women and Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. But they say when Imam Hussein went into the battlefield, she was standing on what is known as Tell al-Zainabi, that hill where Lady Zainab alayha salam stood there watching, seeing her brother fight the enemies of Allah. Her heart was with Hussein in every step of the battlefield. They say Imam Hussein alayhi salam, until the last moment when the enemies of Allah gathered around him, Then a huge cloud of dust where Lady Zainab alayhi salam could not see her brother and what was happening. Then that cloud had settled. Lady Zainab would not see Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Lady Zainab kept looking towards where he was. They say Lady Zainab alayhi salam then started walking towards the battlefield. Lady Zainab, as she came closer, the enemies of Allah casting their eyes, opening the way. Ibn Sa'ad said, "اعلموا ويحكم." Do you know who she is? She is the daughter of Ali. She is the daughter of Fatima. They say Lady Zainab alayha salam, she came, she saw Imam Hussein laying on the ground of Karbala. She sat right by him. She took him in her arms. She hugged him. She kissed him. She said, Akhi Hussein, brother Hussein, Nura Aini Hussein, talk to me for the sake of our grandfather Muhammad. Imam Hussein didn't say a word. Lady Zainab repeated and said, Akhi Hussein, for the sake of our father Ali, say something, talk to me. Imam Hussein uttered no word. Then Lady Zainab alayhi salam said, Akhi Hussein, Nura Aini, the light of my eyes, Hussein, for the sake of our mother, Lady Fatima, talk to me. And they say Imam Hussein, barely opening his eyes, said, Ukhayya Zainab, Sister Zainab, you've torn my heart. Go back to the camp. Take care of the women and the children. Ukhayya Zainab. Imagine the hardest moments when Lady Zainab had to walk away, leaving Imam Hussein. She left her heart with him as she walked back to the camps. Ya laytana كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal the Almighty to forgive us all our sins in these blessed nights of Rajab. اللهم بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها تقبل منا هذا القليل. Accept the little that we are offering, dear brothers and sisters. A reminder, tonight is the night of the 15th of Rajab. Any prayers you do, قرب إلى الله, seek Allah's closeness with any act. The least you can do, which is big by itself, that you recite 100 times salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You pray 2 rak'at قرب إلى Allah. You give them to those who passed away. You ask the most important thing, seek forgiveness from Allah Azza wa Jal. Reset your time with Allah Azza wa Jal. You are talking to the most generous. You're addressing him biya sari' al-rida. He is very fast and quick to accept, to be pleased. Just walk towards him. And don't forget those who passed away. Don't forget to pray for your parents. Don't forget to pray for the loved ones. And ask Allah forgiveness and guidance. And we ask Him all to forgive us and guide us. I ask you forgiveness, inshallah, for my shortcomings. And the last of our prayers, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Let us offer the blessings of reciting Surah Al-Fatiha to all those souls that passed away after the Salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
يا حسين زینب اے زینب تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ خدا ہے حافظ و ناصر تمہارا زینب اے زینب تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ خدا ہے حافظ و ناصر تمہارا زینب اے زینب رہے گا تا ابد باقی تمہارا نام دنیا میں بڑا احسان ہے دین پر تمہارا زینب اے زینب تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ خدا ہے حافظ و ناصر تمہارا زینب اے زینب عجب ہے بات براستی ہے صدا جبرائیل کی آئی لہو میں غرق ہے دین کا ستارہ زینب اے زینب تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ خدا ہے حافظ و ناصر زینب اے زینب پیسر کو کر دیا قربان بقائے دین کی خاطر کیا ہر ظلم کو تم نے گوارا زینب اے زینب تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ تیری ہستی ہے ایک روشن ستارہ خدا ہے حافظ و ناصر تمہارا زینب اے زینب من کے بھی علم دارم بے معین و بے یارم از حیات بیزارم از حیات بیزارم خواہرم خدا حافظ زینب حزین من زینب حزین من خواہرم خدا حافظ زینب حزین من خواہرم خدا اے میری بہن زینب گر تیرے حوالے ہے اے میری بہن زینب گر تیرے حوالے ہے جو لائے کے سجدہ ہے سر اس کے حوالے ہے بس چلنے کو ہے خنجر بس چلنے کو ہے خنجر خواہرا خدا حافظ زینب حزین من خواہرا خدا حافظ زینب حزین من خواہرا خدا حافظ گردن خنجر میری گردن پر جب شمر چلائے گا خنجر میری گردن پر جب شمر چلائے گا رہ کے مجھے تیرا چہرہ نظر آئے گا رہ کے مجھے تیرا چہرہ نظر آئے گا تو ہوگی برہ ناصر تو ہوگی برہ ناصر خواہرا خدا حافظ زینب حزین من حافظ زینب حزین من خواہرا خدا حافظ زندان کے اندھیرے میں جب روئے میری بچی زندان کے اندھیرے میں جب روئے میری بچی دل جوئی بہت کرنا اس وقت بہن اس کی دل جوئی بہت کرنا اس وقت بہن اس کی مر جائے نہ وہ گھٹ کر مر جائے نہ وہ گھٹ کر خواہرا خدا حافظ زینب حزین من خواہرا خدا حافظ زینب حزین من خواہرا خدا حافظ یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین الفاتحہ
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى 9 المأسومين من ذريتك، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا صاحب الأسر والزمان، سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك، وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك، وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته.